All right, welcome back. We're about to start our discussion tonight. Now, last week we tackled the issue of infertility and the burden it places particularly on women unable to conceive. Now, what would you say if you found out there are individuals and couples who are perfectly able to sire or bear children but don't want to? Well, Kenya's birth rates have fallen in recent years, according to statistics. Whether the number of those choosing the child-free life is a reason, well, the jury is still out on that. You're about to meet Taruri Gatere, who decided that she was better off without children in her life. Here's why. Take a look.
I grew up in a family of just girls. Well, the children, that is. We're 4 daughters. And I'm the last born. And I grew up in a pretty normal, conservative Christian household. My mom is still a very dedicated and committed Christian. And so I grew up in church a lot with church values, and it's interesting because family values were instilled in me from a very young age, you know. One of the things that I appreciate about my life is that it is free. Like, I feel free. I feel like I can get up and do whatever it is that I want to do without having to think about someone else. And I know that can be termed as selfish, but at the same time it's like, yeah, it is, and that's my life. I like that simplicity. It is very simple. I get to make decisions based on purely my desires, and the thing that is complicated is dating as a woman who doesn't want children, because I didn't even know this, that guys are the ones who are found most resistant to the idea of being childless than yes. And I think for the most part it's also because women tend to carry a lot of responsibility when it comes to the kids. So I guess then mothers might be like, I can understand why you don't want to put this on yourself if it's something that you don't really want. But men are so like, what do you mean?
All right, so before we speak with Taruri, we spoke to some Kenyans to get their take on the matter. Watch.
Unajua wale watu wataki kwa watoto, ukiona hivyo ni wale watu wanapenda raha sana, kwa sababu kama uko na mtoto unaweza ogopa, unashinda sasa ndio nimepata mtoto, sasa hii naweza fanya nini? Ninaweza fanya nini? Sasa nimepata mtoto, sitaweza kwenda raha. Unaona? Kwa hiyo mimi naweza sema utajiri mkubwa sana ni watoto.
Mimi huamka mapema kwa sababu ya watoto wangu. Juu watoto ni kitu ya maana. Juu hata si watoto siwezi nikakuja mahali kama hapa. Na nakuja hapa saa 10 ndio nitafutia watoto wangu.
Natafuta pesa ili niweze kusaidia babangu in other way. Because I'm still a child, I'm under him. I'm in a race until where I am. So we have to help our fathers, mothers, wherever they are.
All right, so child-free individual and life coach Taruri Gatere joins us. When you watch those reactions, and I'm sure you've had them firsthand.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say to that?
It's something that I've heard a lot, especially the lady who was talking about how she goes to work early, you know, and that's certainly something that people say that kids bring a lot of meaning to your life, because now you have a purpose, you have to take care of these beings. But I guess that's a choice that I respect, but for me I feel like there's more purpose to life, I guess.
I mean, and then there's also the young man who said, I work to support my parents. So you also have that aspect of later on when you get old and your health is deteriorating, you have your children to take care of you. Do you worry that that might not be the case for you if you don't have children?
I mean, honestly, it's something I've thought about, because that's how our society is set up, isn't it? It's like when the kids get to a certain age, they start taking care of their parents. But at the same time, for me, that's still not good enough a reason to bring a child into this life, because that's essentially saying that I'm putting the responsibility of my life on someone else. And while there is a risk that I don't know, you know, when I'm older, you know, there might be some issue with that, it's still not something that I consider important.
You come from a sizable family, several siblings. So coming from a setup like that, when and why did you decide it's not for me. I mean, you come from a really big family and
Yeah.
support system.
Yeah, like I think it didn't sink in until like in my 20s, because honestly, it just, you think you're a woman and that's what you're supposed to do. That's how I was raised. Being a woman, that was part of your destiny. You were meant to be a mom. But I started to realize in my 20s, when I was going through my phases of understanding who I am, discovering who I am, understanding my own values, I started to realize that actually motherhood isn't something that I desire to have. And it's as simple as that. There could be millions of reasons. That sometimes people will tell me, give me some reasons, and I'm like, it's expensive, and I think it's a lot of responsibility, and but I really think that if it was something that I wanted, then none of those reasons would stand against that. So I feel like that's what it comes down to.
And what do your parents think about your choice, your life choice?
It's been difficult for them to
Yeah.
understand, and especially because my mom and my dad love being grandparents. I have nieces, I have 2 nieces and 1 nephew who are like lights of our lives, but it's kind of hard for them to be like, so now you're not going to have one? But what I love about my parents is they respect my decisions, even if they don't understand them. I rarely get any pressure to be to have kids or be a certain way. And I guess for me, that's given me the freedom to be able to voice the choices that I want for my own life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, this was sparked by a post by Kaz earlier this week on Instagram. And she said, people don't understand when I express my desire not to have children. I love to be around them.
Yeah.
She has nieces and nephews, but it's something she doesn't want to do. And it kind of brings us into a different angle of this conversation, which is the reproductive status of women, especially in the African context, is everyone's business.
Yes.
So how do you deal with that kind of pressure and expectation?
It's very uncomfortable, to be honest. It's something that's so personal, and to have people ask you questions like, so when is the baby coming? When is the husband coming? Or just such personal questions, it feels a little intrusive.
Yeah.
But in dealing with it over the years, especially now when I opened up discussion by voicing the fact that I don't want kids, you see, then that opens up, people's questions. They're like, I need to know why. I've learned to manage it, even when it comes with judgment. Yeah. I just, I try to just not take it personally and understand that perhaps this is how people think, they can talk to me, or, it's so embedded in the culture that I'm like, I kind of just let it go and try to be easy with it. But
Right.
I look forward to the time when people will understand that it's not something that maybe should be discussed with such openness or what's the word, entitlement, because what if it's, like you said, you did a story last week about infertility. Right. What if it's a woman who can't have kids? That opens up a lot of pain. So I hope people will also learn to be more sensitive about such things.
And I think, of course, the stigma is attached to that aspect of women not being able to bear or just not choosing to, because her worth is so attached to that part. But you see people like Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, or Oprah, who've decided they're not going to have children, and they've walked this path. Do you think that you would ever change your mind on this?
I don't think so. I don't see a time when I will change my mind. But then, of course, with life, you can't be too sure. Maybe circumstances would change. Maybe something within me would shift. But as I see it, no. I see in my future, I just see a childless life and me following the dreams that I have, and
And of course, I know the other question people have on their minds is the legacy part of this.
Yes.
Carrying on the family name and genes and just different aspects of you and your partner, if you decided that doesn't come into play. So what legacy would you want to leave if children are not in the picture?
I guess just my mark on the world, in other people, in my relationships, especially with my family or with my friends, or in my work as a life coach. I hope that those are the things that I leave on this earth, because for me it's not very important to have like my DNA stamp. And sometimes, like with my parents, I joke and I'm like, you're good, you know, because they want like the family to be carried on, and I'm just like, please, you already have grandchildren, you're fine. You don't need them through me. But yeah, it's not very important for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Toruri, and being brave enough to share a very new and foreign idea when it comes to Kenyans and Africans in general. But I mean, let's see if it opens up people's minds to this new way of life. Thank you so much for your time. All right.